Right now, as you process these words, you believe you are moving forward through time. You remember the past. You anticipate the future. You experience this moment as uniquely real, fleeting, sliding inevitably from present into past, while the future approaches to become now. This feeling is so fundamental to your existence that questioning it seems absurd. Of course, time moves forward. Of course, the present moment is special. Of course, the future has not happened yet. But what if you are wrong? What if everything you have ever experienced about time, every intuition you have ever had about past, present, and future is a kind of elaborate illusion? What if the universe does not care about now? What if yesterday, today, and tomorrow are all equally real, existing simultaneously in a four-dimensional structure where nothing moves and nothing changes? This is not philosophy. This is physics. The equations that describe reality at its most fundamental level, the mathematics that governs everything from falling apples to black holes, tell a story radically different from the one you experience. They describe a universe where time does not flow, where the distinction between past, present, and future is no more real than the distinction between north and south, where every moment that has ever existed or will ever exist is simply their unchanging eternal carved into the fabric of space-time itself. Albert Einstein, the man who revolutionized our understanding of space-time and gravity, wrote these words in a letter to the family of a recently deceased friend. The distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. He was not being poetic. He was describing what his equations revealed about the nature of reality. Time as we experience it might be the universe's most convincing magic trick. If you are ready to question everything you think you know about time, if you are prepared to confront the possibility that your entire life from birth to death exists right now as an unchanging structure in four-dimensional space-time, then settle in. Get yourself comfortable. Close your eyes if you wish. Let us explore the most unsettling idea in all of physics, that time is not moving forward and perhaps never was. Every morning you wake up believing you have traveled into the future. You went to sleep yesterday. You woke up today. Time passed. This seems undeniable. You check your phone and see that hours elapsed while you slept. You look in the mirror and notice you are older than you were a decade ago. You remember events that happened in the past. You plan events that will happen in the future. Everything about your conscious experience screams that time is real and that it flows in one direction only from past to future, carrying you along like a river current you cannot resist. But notice something strange about this experience. You never actually perceive time passing. You perceive changes. The sun moves across the sky. The clock hands rotate. Your heart beats. Neurons fire in your brain. You observe motion, transformation, alteration. But do you observe time itself? Do you see or hear or touch the flow of moments? Or do you simply observe different states and infer that time must have passed between them? Imagine watching a film. Each frame is a still image, frozen and unchanging. But when those frames are displayed rapidly in sequence, you perceive motion. A person seems to walk across the screen. Cars seem to drive down roads. Clouds seem to drift through the sky. But nothing is actually moving. You are seeing a rapid succession of static images, and your brain constructs the illusion of motion from that succession. What if your experience of time is similar? What if the universe is like a film that has already been made, every frame already existing, and your consciousness is simply moving through those frames, creating the illusion that time is flowing, when really you are just experiencing a sequence of static moments that all exist simultaneously? This sounds like philosophy, but it emerges directly from physics. The story begins with Isaac Newton, who formalized the first mathematical description of time in his masterwork, the Principia Mathematica, published in 1687. Newton described time as absolute and universal, a cosmic clock ticking at the same rate everywhere in the universe. Time flowed uniformly from past to future, and this flow was independent of anything that happened within it. Events unfolded in time, but time itself was unaffected by events. Newton's absolute time matched our intuition perfectly. It felt right. Time passes at the same rate for everyone everywhere. A second in London equals a second in Beijing equals a second on Mars. The present moment exists throughout the entire universe. Everyone everywhere shares the same now. This picture dominated physics for more than 2 centuries. And then Albert Einstein destroyed it. In 1905, Einstein published his special theory of relativity, a paper that revolutionized our understanding of space and time. The mathematics were complex, but the core insight was simple and devastating. There is no absolute time. There is no universal now. Time is not independent of space. They are woven together into a single four-dimensional fabric called space-time, and the rate at which time passes depends on how fast you are moving and how strong the gravitational field is in your location. This seems absurd. How can time pass at different rates? How can there be no universal present moment? But the mathematics is ironclad, and every experiment ever conducted has confirmed Einstein's predictions with extraordinary precision. Consider two observers, Alice and Bob. Alice remains on Earth. Bob boards a spacecraft and accelerates to near the speed of light, travels for what feels like 1 year to him, then returns to Earth. When Bob arrives home, he discovers that 10 years have passed on Earth. Alice has aged 10 years. Bob has aged only 1. They experienced the same journey through space-time, but they experienced it at different rates. For Bob, 1 year passed. For Alice, 10 years passed. Both experiences are equally valid. There is no absolute answer to how much time really passed. This is not science fiction. This is experimentally verified reality. Atomic clocks placed on airplanes tick at measurably different rates than identical clocks left on the ground. GPS satellites must account for relativistic time dilation, or their position calculations would be wrong by kilometers. Particles accelerated in colliders live longer from our perspective than identical particles at rest, because time passes more slowly for them when they are moving at high speeds. Time is not a universal river flowing at the same rate everywhere. Time is personal, local, dependent on your motion and your position in gravitational fields. And this has a profound implication. If there is no universal time, then there is no universal present moment. There is no cosmic now that everyone shares. Let me make this concrete with a thought experiment. Imagine two events happen in the universe. Event A occurs on Earth. Event B occurs on a planet orbiting a distant star. These events happen at the same moment according to an observer at rest relative to both locations. To this observer, A and B are simultaneous. They happen now. But now imagine a second observer traveling at high speed relative to the first observer. According to the second observer, event A happens before event B. The two events are not simultaneous. Event B happens in the future relative to event A. Now imagine a third observer traveling at high speed in the opposite direction. According to this third observer, event B happens before event A. Event A happens in the future relative to event B. All three observers are correct according to relativity. There is no absolute answer to which event happened first. Simultaneity is not a fundamental feature of reality. It is observer-dependent like velocity or kinetic energy. But this creates a problem. If simultaneity is observer-dependent, then the present moment is observer-dependent. Your now is not my now. And if your now includes events that are in my future or my past, then those events must already exist or still exist. The future cannot be not yet real if different observers disagree about which events are future. The past cannot be no longer real if different observers disagree about which events are past. This leads to a radical conclusion called the block universe or eternalism. If relativity is correct, and all evidence suggests it is, then all moments in time exist with equal reality. Past, present, and future are all equally real, equally existent, all carved into the unchanging four-dimensional structure of space-time. Imagine a loaf of bread. The entire loaf exists at once. You can slice it at different angles to get different cross-sections, but all parts of the loaf are present simultaneously. Space-time is like this loaf. The entire history of the universe from the Big Bang to the far future exists as a four-dimensional structure. Your life is a thread winding through this structure, connecting the moment of your birth to the moment of your death. When you experience the present moment, you are not experiencing something unique and privileged. You are simply experiencing one particular cross-section of the four-dimensional loaf. The moments you call past are other cross-sections that you have already experienced. The moments you call future are cross-sections you will experience later. But all the cross-sections exist simultaneously, just like all parts of the loaf exist simultaneously. This is deeply counterintuitive. It feels wrong. It violates everything your conscious experience tells you about reality. The past feels gone. The future feels non-existent. The present feels uniquely real. But feelings are not always reliable guides to truth. Your brain evolved to help you survive and reproduce in a world of moderate speeds and weak gravity. It did not evolve to give you accurate intuitions about the fundamental structure of space-time. The block universe resolves many paradoxes. Consider time travel. In a universe where time flows and the future does not exist, yet traveling to the future seems impossible. How can you travel to a place that does not exist? But in a block universe, the future already exists. It is simply a region of space-time you have not experienced yet. Traveling there is like traveling to a distant city. The city exists whether you have visited it or not. What about traveling to the past? In a flowing time universe, this creates impossible paradoxes. The famous grandfather paradox asks, what if you travel back in time and prevent your grandfather from meeting your grandmother? Then you would never be born. But if you were never born, you could not travel back in time to prevent their meeting. Contradiction. In a block universe, this paradox dissolves. The past exists just as solidly as the present. When you travel back in time, you do not change the past. You participate in it. Your actions in the past were always part of the past. They always happened. There is no changing history because history is not a sequence of events that can be altered. History is a four-dimensional structure that simply exists unchanging and eternal. This means that if time travel to the past is possible, and you do travel back and meet your grandfather, then your meeting him was always part of history. Perhaps you met him and he did not recognize you as his grandchild from the future. Perhaps your intervention is what caused him to meet your grandmother in the first place. There is no paradox because there is no change, only the eternal existence of a self-consistent four-dimensional structure. Now you might object, this is absurd. I can change things. I make choices. My future is not predetermined. I could put down this book right now and do something else. That is my choice freely made. But is it? In a block universe, your future already exists. Every choice you will ever make has already been made, exists already as part of the unchanging four-dimensional structure. When you feel like you are choosing, you are experiencing the unfolding of events that were always going to unfold this way. Your sense of free will is part of the illusion, part of the experience of being a conscious observer moving through a static structure. This troubles people deeply. It seems to eliminate agency, responsibility, meaning. If the future is already written, why do anything? Why make decisions? Why care about consequences? But this reaction confuses determinism with fatalism. Yes, in the block universe, your future exists, but it exists as the result of the choices you make. Your decisions are real. They have consequences. The fact that those decisions and consequences already exist in the four-dimensional structure does not make them any less your decisions or any less consequential. Think of it this way: a film has already been made. Every frame exists. The story is complete. But when you watch the film, you still experience suspense, surprise, emotional engagement with the characters. The fact that the ending already exists does not diminish your experience of the story. Similarly, the fact that your life already exists as a complete four-dimensional structure does not diminish your experience of living it, making choices, caring about outcomes. The block universe is strange, counterintuitive, disturbing, but it follows directly from Einstein's relativity, and relativity has been tested more thoroughly than almost any theory in physics. Every prediction it makes has been confirmed. The GPS system in your phone would not work if relativity were wrong. The mathematics is airtight. The experimental evidence is overwhelming. And yet the block universe conflicts violently with our conscious experience. You do not feel like a static four-dimensional structure. You feel like a three-dimensional being moving through time. You feel the passage of moments. You feel the difference between past, present, and future. This feeling is so strong, so immediate, so undeniable that it seems impossible to dismiss as mere illusion. So we are faced with a mystery. Physics tells us time does not flow. Consciousness tells us it does. Which is correct? Or is the question itself confused based on a misunderstanding of what time and consciousness really are? To answer this, we need to understand what creates the illusion of flowing time. If the block universe is correct, if all moments exist equally, why do we experience one moment as special as now? Why do we remember the past, but not the future? Why does time seem to have a direction, an arrow pointing from past to future? These questions bring us to one of the deepest mysteries in physics, the arrow of time. And understanding the arrow of time requires understanding entropy, the second law of thermodynamics, and the strange fact that the past was extraordinarily orderly compared to the present and future. But before we dive into entropy, let us pause and sit with the strangeness of what we have already discovered. Time might not flow. The present moment might not be special. Your entire life might exist right now as a static structure in four-dimensional space-time. Yesterday is still happening. Tomorrow is already happening. You are experiencing a sequence of moments, but that sequence already exists complete and unchanging, carved into the fabric of reality itself. This is what modern physics tells us. This is what the equations reveal. Whether this is the truth about time or merely a limitation of our current understanding remains an open question. But one thing is certain: time is far stranger than it appears. The flow you feel, the motion from past to future, might be the universe's most successful illusion. An illusion so convincing that even knowing it is an illusion does not make it disappear. And now, having glimpsed the possibility that time does not move, we must ask, if time does not move, what does? What creates the overwhelming sensation of temporal flow? What distinguishes past from future if physics does not? The answer lies not in the fundamental laws of physics, which are almost entirely time-symmetric, but in a statistical law, a law about disorder and probability, and the inevitable slide toward maximum entropy. The answer lies in the second law of thermodynamics, the most powerful and mysterious principle in all of science. But to understand the second law, we must first understand what entropy is and why it always increases. We must confront the fact that broken eggs do not spontaneously reassemble, that mixed coffee and cream do not unmix, that the universe is engaged in a one-way journey from order to disorder that defines the arrow of time more powerfully than any other phenomenon. The block universe tells us that time does not flow, but entropy tells us why it feels like it does. And the tension between these two insights, between the timeless four-dimensional structure revealed by relativity and the directional flow revealed by thermodynamics, points towards something profound about the nature of reality itself. Your conscious experience of time is not an accident. It is not arbitrary. It emerges from deep principles of physics, from the structure of space-time and the nature of entropy and the way information is processed in your brain. Understanding these principles will not make the illusion disappear. You will still feel time flowing even after you understand why you feel it. But understanding will change what that feeling means. It will reveal the machinery behind the magic trick. And perhaps, just perhaps, it will offer a different way of relating to time. A way that embraces the eternal present of the block universe while honoring the directional flow of entropy. A way that reconciles the timeless mathematics of physics with the temporal experience of consciousness. This is the journey we are embarking on. A journey through physics and philosophy, through mathematics and neuroscience, through cosmology and consciousness. A journey that questions the most basic assumption you make about reality, that time moves forward, carrying you from past to future, from birth to death, through a sequence of moments that unfold one after another in a never-ending stream. What if that assumption is wrong? What if time does not move at all? What if you are not traveling through time, but simply experiencing different perspectives on an eternal, unchanging, four-dimensional structure that contains every moment of your existence simultaneously? The evidence suggests this might be true. The mathematics points in this direction. The experiments confirm it. And if it is true, then everything changes. Not the external world, which remains exactly as it always was, but your understanding of that world, your relationship to past and future, your sense of what it means to be a conscious being embedded in time. This is where we are going. Into the heart of time's deepest mystery. Into the question of whether time moves or whether movement through time is an illusion, created by consciousness navigating a static, four-dimensional landscape. Let the journey begin. Imagine you could step outside of time entirely and view the universe from a perspective beyond past, present, and future. What would you see? Not a three-dimensional world changing moment by moment, but a four-dimensional landscape where every event that has ever happened or will ever happen exists simultaneously. Birth and death are not separated by the passage of time, but by distance along a fourth dimension, just as New York and Los Angeles are separated by distance along a spatial dimension. This is the block universe. And if Einstein's relativity is correct, this is what the universe actually is. The concept seems impossible at first. How can tomorrow exist right now? How can events that have not happened yet be just as real as events happening now? The answer requires letting go of intuitions built from everyday experience and trusting the mathematics that governs reality at its deepest level. Let us build the picture carefully step by step. Start with ordinary three-dimensional space. You can move north or southeast, or west up or down. These are three independent directions, three dimensions. Your position at any given moment can be specified by three numbers: latitude, longitude, and altitude, for example. Every location in space exists simultaneously. Boston exists right now. Tokyo exists right now. The moon exists right now. They are separated by distance, but they all exist at the same time. Now add time as a fourth dimension. Your position in space-time is specified by four numbers, three spatial coordinates, and one temporal coordinate. Where are you? At such and such latitude, longitude, and altitude. When are you? At such and such time. These four coordinates locate you in the four-dimensional space-time continuum. In this four-dimensional view, your entire life is a structure. A world line, physicists call it. A continuous path through space-time that begins at your birth and ends at your death. Every moment of your existence is a different cross-section of this path. When you experience now, you are experiencing one particular slice through your world line. A moment ago, you were experiencing a different slice. A moment from now, you will experience another slice. But all the slices exist simultaneously in the four-dimensional structure. The moment of your birth exists. The moment you are experiencing right now exists. The moment of your death exists. They are separated in time, just as different cities are separated in space, but separation does not mean non-existence. Tokyo does not stop existing just because you are currently in New York. Similarly, tomorrow does not stop existing just because you are currently experiencing today. This is profoundly strange. It means that you reading these words exist simultaneously with every version of yourself at every moment of your life. The child you were exists right now not as a memory, but as an actual event in space-time. The elderly person you will become exists right now not as a possibility, but as an actual event in space-time. All of these moments are equally real, equally existent, carved into the unchanging four-dimensional structure of the universe. Physicists sometimes use the metaphor of a loaf of bread to illustrate this. Imagine space-time as a loaf. The length of the loaf represents time. One end is the Big Bang. The other end is the far future. Your life is a thread running through the loaf, entering at your birth and exiting at your death. When you slice the loaf horizontally, you get a three-dimensional cross-section representing all of space at a particular moment in time. This is what you might call now the entire universe at a single instant. But here is the key insight: the way you slice the loaf is arbitrary. You could slice it at a different angle and get a different now. And according to relativity, different observers moving at different velocities will slice the loaf at different angles. This is why simultaneity is relative. Two events that are simultaneous in one observer's slicing of the space-time loaf are not simultaneous in another observer's slicing. There is no absolute universal present moment that everyone shares. The concept of now is observer-dependent, like the concept of here. When you say here, you mean your current spatial location. But here is meaningless without reference to a coordinate system. Here for you is not here for someone standing a mile away. Similarly, now is meaningless without reference to a frame of reference. Now for you is not now for someone moving at high velocity relative to you. This relativity of simultaneity has a shocking implication. Imagine two events separated by vast distances in space. Event A happens on Earth today. Event B happens on a planet orbiting a star 1,000 light-years away. According to an observer at rest relative to both planets, these events happen at the same moment. They are simultaneous in this observer's reference frame. But according to an observer moving at high speed toward the distant planet, event B happens before event A. It is in the past relative to event A. And according to an observer moving at high speed away from the distant planet, event B happens after event A. It is in the future relative to event A. All three observers are correct according to relativity. There is no absolute answer to whether event A and event B are simultaneous or whether one happens before the other. But notice what this implies. If event B can be in the future according to one observer and in the past according to another observer, then event B must exist regardless of which time period an observer considers it to belong to. You cannot be in the past or future unless you exist. The past and future must be just as real as the present. This is the argument for the block universe, sometimes called the Raydick-Putnam argument after the philosophers who first articulated it clearly. It proceeds from the relativity of simultaneity to the reality of all times. If simultaneity is observer-dependent and different observers have different present moments, then all moments must exist for any present moment to exist for any observer. Think about what this means for your life. According to you right now, reading these words, this moment is present. Your childhood is past. Your death is future. But according to an observer moving at high velocity relative to you, your death might be simultaneous with this present moment. It is happening now in their reference frame. And that observer is not wrong. Their reference frame is just as valid as yours. So your death must be happening now. Not now in your reference frame, but now in another equally valid reference frame. And if it is happening now in any reference frame, it must exist. It must be real. Not potentially real or eventually real, but actually real right now. This is deeply unsettling. It means that your future already exists. Every choice you will ever make, every experience you will have, every emotion you will feel, all of it exists right now as part of the unchanging four-dimensional structure of space-time. You are not creating the future through your choices. You are discovering a future that already exists, experiencing it moment by moment as your consciousness moves along your world line. Does this eliminate free will? This question has troubled philosophers since Einstein first revealed the block universe implications of relativity. If the future already exists, if every action you will take is already carved into space-time, then how can you have freedom? How can choices be real? The answer depends on what you mean by free will. If you mean the ability to make your future different from what it would otherwise be, then no, you do not have free will in the block universe. Your future cannot be different from what it is because it already is what it is. But if you mean the ability to make choices based on your desires, beliefs, and reasoning, then yes, you have free will. Your choices are real. They have consequences. The fact that those choices and consequences already exist in the four-dimensional structure does not make them any less your decisions or any less consequential. Consider an analogy. A novel has already been written. Every event in the story exists on the pages. The ending is already determined. But the characters in the novel still make choices. Those choices still matter to the story. They still determine how events unfold. The fact that the story is already written does not make the characters' choices unreal or meaningless within the context of the story. You are like a character in a novel. Your story is already written in the four-dimensional structure of space-time. But you are experiencing that story from the inside, making the choices that the story describes, feeling the emotions that the story describes you feeling. Your choices are real. Your experiences are real. They are just not creating a future that did not exist before. They are actualizing a future that always existed. This might seem like a semantic dodge, but it is more than that. It points to a confusion about what free will actually means. Free will is not the ability to make the future different from what it would be. Free will is the ability to act according to your desires and reasoning. And that ability is not threatened by the block universe. Your desires and reasoning are part of the four-dimensional structure. They shape your world line just as much as gravity shapes the trajectory of a planet. Now consider the implications for death. In a universe where time flows, death is an ending, a termination. The moment you die, you cease to exist. You were, but now you are not. Death is lost finality, the ultimate negation. But in the block universe, death is not an ending. It is simply a boundary of your world line. Your world line enters space-time at your birth and exits at your death. But exiting does not mean ceasing to exist. It means reaching the edge of your trajectory through the four-dimensional landscape. Every moment of your life continues to exist after your death. The child you were still plays in the backyard. The teenager you were still experiences first love. The adult you are right now still reads these words. These moments do not disappear when your world line ends. They remain eternal and unchanging, carved into space-time forever. This offers a strange kind of immortality. Not survival beyond death, but eternal existence of every moment you ever lived. You are not just a temporary pattern that will disappear. You are a permanent structure in the four-dimensional universe. Every joy you experience, every connection you make, every moment of beauty or love or wonder exists forever as part of the unchanging landscape of space-time. Grief takes on a different character in this view. When someone dies, they have not ceased to exist. They have simply reached the end of their world line. But every moment they existed still exists. Your memories of them are not just echoes of something gone. They are connections to events that are still there in space-time, still real, still part of the eternal structure. This does not mean death is not sad. The future sections of your world line will not intersect with the world line of the person who died. You will not experience new moments with them. That loss is real, but they have not vanished into nothingness. They persist in the four-dimensional structure as real as they ever were. Some find this comforting. Others find it cold and abstract. How can eternal existence in a static four-dimensional structure compare to living, breathing, changing presence? The person who died is not gone, but they are not here either. They are there in a different temporal location, as unreachable as someone in a different city, but infinitely more unreachable, because you cannot travel backward along the time dimension to visit them. Or can you? The block universe changes the nature of time travel from impossible paradox to theoretical possibility. If the past exists, truly exists right now, just as much as the present exists, then traveling to the past is not traveling to something that no longer exists. It is traveling to a different region of space-time, a region that is just as real as the region you currently occupy. The grandfather paradox dissolves in the block universe. You cannot change the past because the past is not mutable. It is a fixed structure. If you travel back in time, you do not alter history. You participate in history that always included your time travel. Every action you take in the past is an action that always happened in the past. There is no timeline branching or rewriting. There is only the single self-consistent four-dimensional structure. Imagine you build a time machine and travel back to 1920. You meet your grandfather as a young man. What happens? You might think you could prevent his meeting with your grandmother, thus preventing your own birth, creating a paradox. But in the block universe, this is impossible. If you exist, and you do exist, then your world line includes your birth. Your birth requires your grandfather meeting your grandmother. So any actions you take in 1920 must be consistent with that meeting happening. Perhaps you try to prevent the meeting and fail. Perhaps your intervention is what causes the meeting in the first place. Perhaps you succeed in preventing one potential meeting, but they meet a different way. The details do not matter. What matters is that the four-dimensional structure is self-consistent. Your time travel was always part of history. Your actions in 1920 were always part of 1920. There is no changing history because history is not a sequence that can be altered. History is a structure that simply exists, unchanging and eternal. This removes the paradoxes, but adds a strange kind of predestination. If you travel back in time, you will do exactly what you always did when you traveled back in time. You cannot do otherwise because doing otherwise would create an inconsistency in the block universe, and the block universe by definition is consistent. Is time travel actually possible? That question remains open. General relativity allows for solutions that include closed time-like curves paths through space-time that loop back on themselves, potentially enabling travel to the past. Whether the universe actually contains such curves and whether they could be traversed by anything resembling a physical object remains unknown. But the block universe at least makes time travel conceptually coherent. It removes the logical paradoxes, even if it does not remove the engineering challenges. Now let us confront the most difficult question about the block universe. If it is true, if all moments exist equally, if the future is just as real as the present, then why do we experience time as flowing? Why does one moment feel special, feel like now, while other moments feel past or future? This is the mystery of the present moment. The block universe explains the structure of space-time. It explains why simultaneity is relative. It resolves paradoxes about time travel, but it does not by itself explain consciousness. It does not explain why you experience one particular slice of the four-dimensional structure as uniquely real as the present moment as now. Some philosophers argue that the present moment is not objectively special. It is simply the moment you are currently experiencing. Different moments are now at different times along your world line. The present is not a global feature of the universe. It is a local feature of consciousness, a property of your perspective on the block universe. This view treats now like here. Here is not objectively special. The place you are is special to you because you are there, but it is not special to someone standing a mile away. They have their own here. Similarly, now is not objectively special. The moment you are experiencing is special to you because you are experiencing it, but it is not special to your past or future self who experience different moments as now. But this raises another question: why does consciousness experience moments sequentially? Why do you remember past moments, but not future moments? Why does your experience have a direction, an arrow pointing from past to future? The answer to this question does not lie in the structure of space-time. Space-time is symmetric. The laws of physics, with one minor exception, in certain particle interactions work equally well forward and backward in time. If you filmed the universe at the level of fundamental particles and played the film backward, you would see processes that obey the same laws as the forward film. Yet your conscious experience is not symmetric. You remember the past. You do not remember the future. Causes precede effects in your experience. Broken eggs do not spontaneously reassemble. Mixed coffee and cream do not unmix. Time has a direction in your experience, even if it does not have a direction in fundamental physics. This direction is called the arrow of time. And understanding the arrow of time requires understanding entropy, the second law of thermodynamics, and the strange fact that the past was extraordinarily orderly compared to the present and future. But before we dive into entropy, let us pause and sit with the strangeness of what we have already discovered. Time might not flow. The present moment might not be special. Your entire life might exist right now as a static structure in four-dimensional space-time. Yesterday is still happening. Tomorrow is already happening. You are experiencing a sequence of moments, but that sequence already exists, complete and unchanging, carved into the fabric of reality itself. This is what modern physics tells us. This is what the equations reveal. Whether this is the truth about time or merely a limitation of our current understanding remains an open question. But one thing is certain: time is far stranger than it appears. The flow you feel, the motion from past to future, might be the universe's most successful illusion. An illusion so convincing that even knowing it is an illusion does not make it disappear. And now, having glimpsed the possibility that time does not move, we must ask, if time does not move, what does? What creates the overwhelming sensation of temporal flow? What distinguishes past from future if physics does not? The answer lies not in the fundamental laws of physics, which are almost entirely time-symmetric, but in a statistical law, a law about disorder and probability, and the inevitable slide toward maximum entropy. The answer lies in the second law of thermodynamics, the most powerful and mysterious principle in all of science. But to understand the second law, we must first understand what entropy is and why it always increases. We must confront the fact that broken eggs do not spontaneously reassemble, that mixed coffee and cream do not unmix, that the universe is engaged in a one-way journey from order to disorder that defines the arrow of time more powerfully than any other phenomenon. The block universe tells us that time does not flow, but entropy tells us why it feels like it does. And the tension between these two insights, between the timeless four-dimensional structure revealed by relativity and the directional flow revealed by thermodynamics, points towards something profound about the nature of reality itself. Your conscious experience of time is not an accident. It is not arbitrary. It emerges from deep principles of physics, from the structure of space-time and the nature of entropy and the way information is processed in your brain. Understanding these principles will not make the illusion disappear. You will still feel time flowing even after you understand why you feel it. But understanding will change what that feeling means. It will reveal the machinery behind the magic trick. And perhaps, just perhaps, it will offer a different way of relating to time. A way that embraces the eternal present of the block universe while honoring the directional flow of entropy. A way that reconciles the timeless mathematics of physics with the temporal experience of consciousness. This is the journey we are embarking on. A journey through physics and philosophy, through mathematics and neuroscience, through cosmology and consciousness. A journey that questions the most basic assumption you make about reality, that time moves forward, carrying you from past to future, from birth to death, through a sequence of moments that unfold one after another in a never-ending stream. What if that assumption is wrong? What if time does not move at all? What if you are not traveling through time, but simply experiencing different perspectives on an eternal, unchanging, four-dimensional structure that contains every moment of your existence simultaneously? The evidence suggests this might be true. The mathematics points in this direction. The experiments confirm it. And if it is true, then everything changes. Not the external world, which remains exactly as it always was, but your understanding of that world, your relationship to past and future, your sense of what it means to be a conscious being embedded in time. This is where we are going. Into the heart of time's deepest mystery. Into the question of whether time moves or whether movement through time is an illusion created by consciousness navigating a static, four-dimensional landscape. Let the journey begin. Drop a glass on the floor and it shatters into pieces. The broken fragments will not spontaneously reassemble into a whole glass. Pour cream into coffee and watch it swirl and mix until the coffee is uniformly light brown. The mixed coffee will not spontaneously unmix with the cream separating back out. These simple observations reveal something profound about the universe. Processes have a direction. Time has an arrow. But where does this arrow come from? Not from the fundamental laws of physics. If you could watch individual molecules bouncing off each other, you would see processes that work equally well forward and backward. A molecule moving left collides with a molecule moving right. They bounce apart. Play this interaction backward, and you see two molecules approaching, colliding, and bouncing apart in the opposite directions. Both the forward and backward versions obey the same laws of physics. Yet somehow, when you zoom out from individual molecules to cups of coffee and glasses and the large-scale world we inhabit, directionality emerges. Eggs break, but do not unbreak. Coffee mixes, but does not unmix. Living things age, but do not unage. Time flows in one direction only, from ordered states to disordered states, from low entropy to high entropy. This is the mystery of the arrow of time. And solving it requires understanding entropy, one of the most important and most misunderstood concepts in all of science. Entropy is often described as disorder or randomness, but this description is imprecise and misleading. Entropy is not about messiness in the everyday sense. Entropy is about the number of ways a system can be arranged microscopically while still looking the same macroscopically. Consider a simple example. You have a box divided into two halves. In the left half, you place 100 gas molecules. The right half is empty. This is a low entropy state because there is only one general arrangement that produces this macroscopic configuration, all molecules on the left. Now remove the divider and let the molecules move freely. They will spread throughout the entire box. Some will be on the left. Some will be on the right. They will distribute roughly evenly. This is a high entropy state because there are vastly more arrangements that produce this macroscopic configuration. Most arrangements of 100 molecules in a box have roughly half the molecules on each side. The second law of thermodynamics states that entropy always increases in a closed system. Or more precisely, it almost always increases. It could decrease by chance, but the probability is so astronomically low that it never happens in practice. Why does entropy increase? Not because of any fundamental law prohibiting decreases. Entropy increases because there are more high entropy states than low entropy states. When a system evolves randomly, it overwhelmingly tends to move toward states that can be achieved in more ways. It is not that low entropy states are forbidden. It is that they are improbable to the point of impossibility. Imagine shuffling a deck of cards. After shuffling, the cards are in some order. That specific order is extraordinarily unlikely. There are roughly 10 to the power of 67 possible arrangements of 52 cards. The probability of any specific arrangement is 1 in 10 to the power of 67, a number so small it is meaningless. But now imagine you want the cards to be in perfect order: ace through king of spades, then ace through king of hearts, then diamonds, then clubs. This is also one specific arrangement out of 10 to the power of 67 possibilities. The probability is the same as any other specific arrangement. Yet if you shuffle a deck, you will never produce this ordered arrangement by chance. Why? Because ordered is a category you care about, and that category contains only a tiny handful of arrangements out of the vast space of possibilities. Most arrangements look random to you. Only a few look ordered. When you shuffle, you almost certainly get one of the overwhelmingly numerous random-looking arrangements. This is entropy. Ordered states are states you can describe simply, states that stand out as special. Disordered states are generic states that do not stand out, states that are typical. And because generic states vastly outnumber special states, systems evolve from special to generic, from ordered to disordered, from low entropy to high entropy. The broken glass has high entropy because there are countless ways to arrange glass shards on the floor that all look like a broken glass. The intact glass has low entropy because there are very few arrangements that produce a functional glass. When you drop the glass, it transitions from the small set of low entropy configurations to the vast set of high entropy configurations. The reverse transition is possible in principle, but so improbable that it never happens. This is why time has an arrow. The arrow points in the direction of increasing entropy. You remember the past because your brain forms memories through processes that increase entropy. You do not remember the future because forming memories of events that have not happened yet would require decreasing entropy, which is overwhelmingly improbable. Causes precede effects because causal processes increase entropy. When you push a box, the energy from your muscles dissipates as heat and sound and motion of the box. Entropy increases. If you played this process backward, you would see heat and sound spontaneously organizing into the motion of your hand pushing the box. This is not forbidden by physics, but it is so improbable that it never happens. So you only ever observe causes preceding effects, never effects preceding causes. The arrow of time is not a feature of the laws of physics. It is a feature of the probability distribution of states. In the block universe, the four-dimensional structure contains all moments equally. But there is an asymmetry in that structure. One temporal direction has increasing entropy, the other has decreasing entropy. The direction of increasing entropy is what we call the future. The direction of decreasing entropy is what we call the past. This explains why time seems to flow in one direction. Your conscious experience is tied to entropy increasing processes. Your neurons fire through chemical reactions that increase entropy. Your memories form through changes that increase entropy. Every thought you have increases the total entropy of the universe. So your consciousness necessarily experiences time in the direction of increasing entropy. In the block universe, your world line has an entropic gradient. Entropy is lower at earlier points along your world line and higher at later points. Your consciousness slides along this gradient, experiencing the direction of steepest increase as the future. The flow of time is not the universe moving. It is your consciousness moving along an entropy gradient in a static, four-dimensional structure. But this raises a profound question: why was entropy low in the past? This is one of the deepest mysteries in physics. The second law says entropy increases. So if entropy is higher now than it was yesterday, and it was higher yesterday than the day before, then going back in time, entropy must have been lower and lower until we reached the beginning of the universe. And indeed it was. The early universe, just after the Big Bang, was in an extraordinarily low entropy state. All the matter and energy in the universe was concentrated in a tiny volume with an extremely uniform distribution. This seems contradictory. How can a dense, hot, uniform state be low entropy? The answer involves gravity, which flips the usual relationship between uniformity and entropy. For ordinary matter without gravity, a uniform distribution is high entropy. Gas molecules spread evenly throughout a room represent a high entropy configuration. But when gravity is involved, uniform distributions are low entropy because gravity wants matter to clump together. The highest entropy state for a gravitational system is not uniformly spread matter, but matter collapsed into black holes. The early universe was a uniform, hot, dense plasma. As it expanded, gravity caused this uniformity to break down. Matter clumped into galaxies, stars, planets. These clumps are higher entropy than the uniform distribution because gravity makes clumping the natural probable state. And eventually, on long enough time scales, everything will collapse into black holes, the maximum entropy configuration for gravitational systems. But why was the universe born in a low entropy state? Why did the Big Bang create conditions so far from equilibrium? This is called the past hypothesis, or the problem of the low entropy past. And physics has no accepted answer. Some physicists argue that the initial conditions of the universe must simply be accepted as a brute fact. The universe started with low entropy. That is a boundary condition, not something that requires explanation. Other physicists seek explanations in theories of quantum gravity or eternal inflation or cyclic cosmologies. But no consensus has emerged. What we know is this: the low entropy past is essential for the arrow of time. Without it, entropy would not consistently increase. Time would not have a direction. Your memories would not work. Causality would not operate. The universe would be in equilibrium, a featureless state where nothing interesting ever happens. The fact that we exist, that we experience time flowing, that we remember the past and anticipate the future, all depends on the mysterious fact that the universe began in a state of extraordinarily low entropy. This is not just a technical detail of cosmology. It is the foundation of our existence. Now scientists distinguish between several different arrows of time, all of which point in the same direction. This alignment is crucial but not fully explained. The thermodynamic arrow is the direction of increasing entropy. Broken eggs, mixed coffee, aging organisms all point from past to future. The psychological arrow is the direction in which we remember. You remember the past. You do not remember the future. You perceive causes preceding effects. This arrow aligns with the thermodynamic arrow because memory formation increases entropy. The cosmological arrow is the direction in which the universe expands. Space is getting bigger. Galaxies are receding from each other. This arrow points from the Big Bang toward the far future. It aligns with the thermodynamic arrow, though the connection is not entirely clear. Some physicists argue that expansion drives entropy increase. Others argue that entropy would increase even in a contracting universe. The quantum arrow is the direction in which quantum superpositions collapse into definite states. Before measurement, a quantum system exists in multiple states simultaneously. After measurement, it has a definite state. Measurement is an irreversible process, an entropy increasing process. The quantum arrow aligns with the thermodynamic arrow because measurement increases entropy. All of these arrows point in the same direction. This is called the problem of the alignment of arrows. Why do they all agree? The standard answer is that they all reduce to the thermodynamic arrow. Memory works the way it does because of entropy. Quantum measurement works the way it does because of entropy. Expansion might drive entropy, or might simply correlate with it. But this is not entirely satisfying. The laws of physics themselves are almost entirely time-symmetric. Run the universe backward at the level of fundamental particles, and the laws still work. Yet somehow from this symmetric foundation, directional arrows emerge. How? The answer seems to be in the special initial conditions of the universe, the low entropy past. Given those initial conditions, the second law drives entropy increases and all the other arrows follow. But the initial conditions themselves remain unexplained, a contingent fact about our universe that might not be true in other universes, a boundary condition that shapes everything about our existence. This is unsettling. The arrow of time, which feels so fundamental, so intrinsic to reality, depends on a historical accident, the fact that our universe happened to begin in a low entropy state. In a different universe with different initial conditions, time might not have an arrow. Or it might have multiple arrows pointing in different directions. Or it might have an arrow that periodically reverses. Our universe is not like that. Our universe has a single well-defined arrow of time that points from the ordered past toward the disordered future. And your consciousness is intimately tied to this arrow. You cannot experience time backward because experiencing requires memory formation, and memory formation requires entropy increase. You are bound to the arrow of time by the very processes that make consciousness possible. In the block universe, this arrow is a feature of the structure, not a feature of motion through the structure. The four-dimensional space-time loaf has a gradient. At one end, shortly after the Big Bang, entropy is low. At the other end, in the far future, entropy approaches its maximum. Your world line threads through this gradient, and your consciousness experiences the gradient as temporal flow. You do not move through time. Time does not flow, but your consciousness is structured such that it can only process information in the direction of increasing entropy. So you experience a flow, an arrow, a direction from past to future, even though the underlying reality is a timeless four-dimensional structure. This is perhaps the deepest insight about time. The flow is in the experiencing, not in the structure. The block universe is static, but the conscious observers within that block universe experience it as dynamic because their consciousness is entropy-bound. You cannot help but experience time as flowing because your brain is an entropy-increasing system that forms memories and processes information in the direction of the thermodynamic arrow. Does this mean the flow of time is an illusion? Yes and no. The flow is not a feature of fundamental space-time. Space-time is a static four-dimensional structure, but the flow is a real feature of consciousness. You genuinely experience moments sequentially past to future. That experience is real even if it does not correspond to motion through an external time. Think of watching a film again. The film itself is a static object. All frames exist simultaneously on the reel or the hard drive. But when you watch the film, you experience a flow. One frame after another, creating the illusion of motion, of story, of time passing. The flow is not in the film. The flow is in the watching. But that does not make the flow less real to you as the observer. Similarly, the flow of time is not in space-time. Space-time is a block, static and unchanging. But the flow is in your experience of space-time. And that experience is real. It is the fundamental fact of your existence. You are a conscious observer embedded in a four-dimensional structure, experiencing that structure sequentially due to the way consciousness is bound to entropy-increasing processes. This does not resolve all mysteries about time. It does not explain why the universe started with low entropy. It does not explain why consciousness is bound to entropy the way it is. It does not explain the hard problem of how physical processes in the brain give rise to subjective experience. But it explains the arrow of time. It explains why time seems to flow even in a block universe where nothing moves. The arrow of time is the shape of your consciousness's interaction with the four-dimensional structure of space-time. The block universe provides the structure. Entropy provides the gradient. Consciousness provides the experience of motion along that gradient. Together, they create the overwhelming sensation that time is flowing forward, carrying you from past to future, even though time itself does not flow at all. And now we must confront an even stranger question: if this is true, if time does not flow, but we experience it as flowing because of entropy and consciousness, then what is the now that feels so special? Why does this moment feel uniquely real while other moments feel past or future? What creates the illusion of the present moment? This brings us to the neuroscience of time perception, to the ways your brain constructs the sensation of now, and to the disturbing possibility that the present moment is not just non-fundamental, but actively manufactured by cognitive processes that hide the true nature of time from your conscious awareness. Close your eyes for a moment and pay attention to your experience. Notice that you are here now, experiencing this particular moment. The past feels gone. The future feels not yet arrived. But this moment right now feels immediately and undeniably present. This sensation is so strong, so persistent, so seemingly self-evident that questioning it feels absurd. But what if now is not what you think it is? What if the present moment is not a fundamental feature of reality, but a construction, a useful fiction created by your brain to help you navigate a four-dimensional universe that contains no privileged moment at all? The evidence suggests that this is exactly what is happening. Your brain does not experience the present moment directly. It constructs the experience of now from pieces of the past, stitching together a coherent narrative that it presents to your consciousness as if it were happening in real time. The present moment you experience is actually a simulation, a model built by your brain from data that arrived dozens or even hundreds of milliseconds ago. This is not speculation. It is experimentally verified neuroscience. Consider a simple demonstration. Clap your hands. You experience the sight of your hands coming together and the sound of the clap as simultaneous. They happen now at the same instant. But this is impossible. Light travels at 300,000 kilometers per second. Sound travels at roughly 300 meters per second. If your hands are 30 centimeters from your eyes and ears, light reaches you in 1 nanosecond, while sound takes 1 millisecond. The visual and auditory signals arrive at different times, yet you perceive them as simultaneous. Your brain is hiding the time difference from you. It waits for both signals to arrive, then processes them together and presents them to consciousness as simultaneous events. This introduces a delay. The now you experience is actually dozens of milliseconds in the past. You are not experiencing the present moment. You are experiencing a carefully constructed representation of a moment that has already passed. The delay varies depending on the type of sensory input. Visual processing takes roughly 80 to 100 milliseconds. Auditory processing is slightly faster. Touch is faster still. Your brain must somehow coordinate these different processing speeds to create a unified experience of now. It does this through a process called temporal binding. Different sensory streams are tagged with timing information and then integrated into a coherent whole. The integration process takes time, which means the final unified experience is always delayed relative to the actual sensory events. Neuroscientist Benjamin Libet discovered something even more disturbing. In experiments conducted in the 1980s, Libet measured the timing of conscious decisions. He asked subjects to perform a simple action like pressing a button whenever they felt like it. He measured 3 things: when the brain showed activity indicating preparation for the action, when subjects reported consciously deciding to act, and when the action actually occurred. The results were shocking. Brain activity indicating preparation for action occurred about 350 milliseconds before subjects reported consciously deciding to act. The brain was preparing to press the button before consciousness was aware of the decision to press the button. This raises profound questions about free will and consciousness. If your brain initiates actions before you consciously decide to perform them, then what role does conscious decision-making play? Are you the author of your actions, or merely a witness to decisions made by unconscious brain processes? The interpretation of Libet's experiments remains controversial, but one thing is clear: consciousness is not a real-time phenomenon. There is a delay, a gap between events and your conscious experience of those events. Your brain fills that gap with processing, integration, and construction. What you experience as the present moment is a model, a simulation built from the past. William James, the pioneering psychologist, called this the specious present, a duration that feels like an instantaneous now, but actually extends across a brief interval of time. James estimated this interval at a few seconds. More recent research suggests the integration window is shorter, perhaps a few hundred milliseconds for most sensory binding. But the key point remains: you do not experience instantaneous moments. You experience durations. And those durations are constructed after the fact from data that has already arrived at your sensory organs. The present moment is not immediate. It is remembered. This creates a strange loop. You remember the past because you form memories. But the present itself is a kind of memory, a very short-term memory of events that just happened. There is no sharp boundary between present and past, only a gradual transition from the specious present through short-term memory to long-term memory. And if the present is a form of memory, then it is subject to the same constructive processes that affect all memory. Your brain does not record the past like a video camera. It reconstructs the past from fragments, filling in gaps, smoothing over inconsistencies, creating a coherent narrative even when the underlying data is incomplete or contradictory. The same is true for the present. Your brain reconstructs now from sensory data, predictions, expectations, and prior knowledge. What you experience as the present moment is a model of best guess about what is happening based on available information. That model is usually accurate enough for practical purposes, but it is not a direct, unfiltered experience of reality. It is an interpretation. This has profound implications for understanding the flow of time. If the present moment is constructed, if now is a simulation built by your brain rather than a direct experience of reality, then the feeling of moving through time is also constructed. You feel like you are traveling from past to future because your brain presents experience to you in a sequential narrative form. But this presentation is a choice, a way of organizing information, not a direct perception of temporal flow. In the block universe, there is no flow. All moments exist simultaneously in the four-dimensional structure. Your consciousness does not move through this structure. Rather, different moments along your world line involve different states of your brain, different configurations of neurons, firing different patterns of information processing. Each moment of your world line contains a brain state that experiences itself as now. From outside the block universe, looking at the four-dimensional structure as a whole, every version of you at every moment of your life is simultaneously experiencing that moment as now. The you of yesterday experienced yesterday as now. The you of tomorrow will experience tomorrow as now. And the you of this moment experiences this moment as now. But all these experiences exist simultaneously in the timeless structure. They are not separated by the passage of time, but by location in the time dimension. This is deeply counterintuitive. It means that right now, as you read these words, every other moment of your life is also happening. Your birth is happening now. Your death is happening now. Not in your experience where only this moment is now, but in the objective four-dimensional structure where all moments are equally real and equally present. The flow of time, the sensation of moving from past to future, is a property of your sequential experience, not a property of space-time. Your consciousness is like a spotlight moving along a path. The spotlight illuminates one section of the path at a time, creating the illusion that only that section exists. But the entire path is there, beginning to end all at once. The movement is in the spotlight, not in the path. Or perhaps the spotlight metaphor is wrong. Perhaps there is no movement at all. Perhaps each moment along your world line contains a version of your consciousness that experiences that moment as now, and these versions do not move or change or flow into each other. They simply exist, each experiencing its own now, each unaware that it is one of countless simultaneous nows along a four-dimensional world line. This second interpretation is closer to what the block universe actually implies. There is no consciousness moving through time. There are many consciousness moments, each existing at a different point along your world line, each experiencing its own present moment. The you of yesterday is still experiencing yesterday as now. The you of tomorrow is already experiencing tomorrow as now. They are not the same consciousness at different times. They are different consciousness moments at different locations in space-time. From the perspective of any particular consciousness moment, all the others are inaccessible. You cannot experience yesterday as now because you are not yesterday as consciousness moment. You are today as consciousness moment. And tomorrow you will not be today as consciousness moment. You will be tomorrow as consciousness moment, experiencing tomorrow as now with today feeling like the past. This raises the question, what is the you that persists through time? If you are not a single consciousness traveling through moments, but many consciousness moments existing at different space-time locations, then what connects them? What makes them all you? The answer seems to be continuity and causal connection. Each consciousness moment along your world line is connected to nearby consciousness moments through memory, through physical continuity of your body and brain, through causal chains linking one moment to the next. These connections create the experience of personal identity, the sense that you are the same person who existed yesterday and will exist tomorrow. But this identity is not absolute. It is a pattern, a structure of relationships between consciousness moments. The you of today shares memories with the you of yesterday, has a body that is causally descended from yesterday as body, has a brain state that evolved from yesterday as brain state. These connections create psychological continuity, the feeling of being a single persisting self. But in the block universe, all these yous exist simultaneously. The you of yesterday is still there in space-time, experiencing yesterday as now. The you of tomorrow is already there in space-time, experiencing tomorrow as now. The sense of being a single continuous self moving through time is a construction, a useful way of organizing the relationships between these many consciousness moments. Does this mean personal identity is an illusion? Not exactly. The pattern is real. The connections between consciousness moments are real. But the feeling that you are a single thing persisting through time, rather than a chain of related consciousness moments existing at different space-time locations, might be an illusion. A persistent illusion like the illusion of the flowing present moment. Now consider free will in this context. If all moments exist simultaneously in the block universe, if your future already exists, if every decision you will make is already part of the unchanging four-dimensional structure, then how can you have freedom? This question has troubled philosophers for decades. The block universe seems to imply determinism. The future is fixed, predetermined, already carved into space-time. Your choices are not free. They are inevitable consequences of prior causes stretching back to the initial conditions of the universe. But there is a subtlety here. Determinism means that given the state of the universe at one time and the laws of physics, the state at any other time is fixed. But this does not mean your choices are not real or that you are not responsible for them. Consider an analogy. A novel has already been written. The entire story exists on the pages. Every event is predetermined by what the author wrote. But the characters in the novel still make choices. Those choices still matter. They still determine how the story unfolds. The fact that the story is already written does not make the characters' choices meaningless within the context of the story. You are like a character in the novel of space-time. Your story is already written in the four-dimensional structure, but you are experiencing that story from the inside. You do not know what comes next. You must make choices based on your desires, beliefs, and reasoning. Those choices are real. They have consequences. They shape your world line. The fact that your world line already exists does not mean your choices do not matter. It means your choices are part of what makes your world line the way it is. You could not have chosen differently because you did not choose differently, but the choice was still yours. You made it based on your desires and reasoning. The outcome was determined, but determined by you by your choice. This view, called compatibilism, reconciles free will with determinism by redefining what free will means. Free will is not the ability to make your future different from what it would be. Free will is the ability to act according to your desires and reasoning. And that ability is not threatened by determinism or by the block universe. But many people find compatibilism unsatisfying. It seems to define away the problem rather than solving it. If your desires and reasoning are themselves determined by prior causes, then how can acting according to them constitute real freedom? The debate continues. Some philosophers embrace hard determinism, denying free will entirely. Others defend libertarian free will, arguing that determinism is false and that consciousness has genuine causal power not reducible to physical processes. Still others defend compatibilism in various forms. The block universe does not settle this debate, but it clarifies what is at stake. If the block universe is correct, then your future already exists. Either free will is compatible with this fact, or free will does not exist. There is no middle ground where the future is genuinely open and undetermined. Most physicists accept determinism, at least at the classical level. Quantum mechanics introduces genuine randomness, but randomness is not freedom. A choice determined by random quantum fluctuations is not a free choice. It is a random choice. Freedom seems to require something beyond both determinism and randomness, something that philosophers have struggled to define coherently. Perhaps the answer is that free will, like the flow of time, is a useful construction. It is a way your brain models decision-making, a framework that helps you navigate the world effectively even if it does not correspond to any deep metaphysical reality. You experience yourself as making free choices. That experience is real and important. Whether it corresponds to libertarian free will in the philosophical sense may be irrelevant to living your life. The block universe, entropy, and the neuroscience of time perception together paint a coherent picture. Time does not flow. The universe is a four-dimensional structure where all moments exist simultaneously. But entropy creates an asymmetry in this structure, a gradient from ordered past to disordered future. And your consciousness is an entropy-bound process that experiences this gradient, sequentially creating the illusion of flowing time. The present moment is not fundamental. It is a construction created by your brain from slightly delayed sensory data stitched together and presented to consciousness as now. This construction is necessary because your brain must integrate information arriving at different speeds from different sensory modalities. The result is a specious present, a brief duration that feels instantaneous, but actually spans dozens or hundreds of milliseconds. And you do not persist through time as a single entity. You are a chain of consciousness moments, each existing at a different location in space-time, each experiencing its own now, connected by memory and physical continuity into the experience of a continuous self. This is the truth about time that physics and neuroscience reveal. Or at least it is the best current understanding based on experimental evidence and theoretical frameworks. Time might yet hold surprises. There might be aspects of temporal experience that current science does not capture. But for now, the evidence points toward a universe where time does not flow, where the present is not special, and where your experience of temporal passage is a useful construction rather than a direct perception of reality. Living with this understanding is strange. You cannot help but experience time as flowing. You cannot stop feeling that the present moment is uniquely real. These experiences are hardwired into your consciousness. But knowing they are constructions, useful fictions created by entropy and neural processing changes their significance. You are not moving through time. You are embedded in a timeless four-dimensional structure, experiencing one moment of that structure as now, while countless other moments also exist, each with its own version of you experiencing its own now. The flow is in the experiencing, not in the structure. The movement is in consciousness, not in time. And perhaps this is liberating. If every moment exists eternally in the block universe, then every moment of joy, connection, beauty, or love you experience exists forever. It does not fade into the past. It remains carved into space-time as real as it ever was. The you of that moment is still experiencing, it's still feeling what you felt, still living that instant of your life. You are not losing moments. You are accumulating them. Each experience adds to the eternal structure of your world line. And that structure, once created, never changes, never fades, never disappears. It simply is timelessly forever. The block universe offers a compelling picture supported by relativity and consistent with thermodynamics. But it is not the only way to understand time. Philosophers and physicists have proposed alternative models, each capturing different intuitions about temporal reality. Some preserve the flow of time. Others eliminate the present moment entirely. Still others suggest that time itself might dissolve into something more fundamental at the smallest scales. These alternatives matter because they reveal that our understanding of time remains incomplete. The block universe answers some questions while raising others. And the uncomfortable fact is that current physics does not definitively rule out other possibility. The nature of time remains one of the deepest unsolved problems in science and philosophy. Let us explore these alternatives systematically and see what they reveal about the mysteries that remain. The growing block theory represents a middle ground between the block universe and our intuitive experience of time. In this view, the past and present are real. They exist as solid facts carved into reality. But the future does not exist yet. It is genuinely open, not yet determined, waiting to come into being. Time in the growing block model is not a static four-dimensional structure, but a three-dimensional structure that is actively growing. Each moment, a new layer of reality crystallizes into existence. The present moment is the leading edge of this crystallization, the boundary between what has become real and what remains merely possible. This model preserves something important that the block universe seems to lose: genuine becoming. Things actually come into existence. The future is not already there waiting to be experienced. It is genuinely created as time passes. This matches our subjective sense that the future is open while the past is fixed. The growing block theory also provides a natural explanation for why we remember the past, but not the future. The past exists as solid reality that can causally influence the present. The future does not exist yet, so there is nothing to remember. The asymmetry between past and future is not just a matter of entropy or perspective. It is built into the structure of reality itself. But the growing block faces serious problems. First, it conflicts with relativity. Remember that simultaneity is relative. Different observers moving at different velocities disagree about which events are simultaneous, which are past, and which are future. If the present is the boundary between existing past and non-existing future, then different observers have different boundaries. Events that are present for one observer are future for another observer. Does this mean the event exists for one observer, but not for another? This seems incoherent. Defenders of the growing block have proposed various solutions. Perhaps the growth happens in a preferred reference frame, picking out a universal present moment despite relativity. But this requires postulating additional structure beyond what relativity describes, structure that has never been detected experimentally. Alternatively, perhaps each reference frame has its own growing block, its own boundary between past and future. But then we have multiple incompatible realities, each with its own version of what exists. This multiplies mysteries rather than solving them. Second, the growing block struggles to explain the mechanism of growth. What causes new moments to crystallize into existence? Physics describes what happens, but it does not describe a process of becoming. The equations of physics are timeless. They relate different states without implying that those states come into being sequentially. If the future does not exist, then the laws of physics cannot refer to it. But the laws of physics are differential equations that relate the state of the universe at one time to its state at nearby times. These equations seem to require that both times exist for the relationship to be well defined. How can the future state emerge from the present state if the future state does not exist yet? Despite these problems, the growing block theory continues to attract defenders because it captures something important about temporal experience. We feel that the past is fixed while the future is open. We feel that becoming is real, that things actually come into existence rather than merely being revealed. The growing block makes these intuitions fundamental features of reality rather than mere appearances. But the price is high. The theory conflicts with relativity, requires mysterious mechanisms of becoming, and multiplies the mysteries about time rather than resolving them. Presentism takes an even more radical stance. In this view, only the present moment exists. The past no longer exists. The future does not exist yet. All of reality is confined to the instantaneous now. This matches our immediate phenomenology even better than the growing block. Right now feels real in a way that yesterday and tomorrow do not. Yesterday is gone. Tomorrow has not arrived. Only now is actual. But presentism faces even more severe problems than the growing block. If only the present exists, then the past and future are not real. But if they are not real, how can we make true statements about them? How can dinosaurs existed be true if dinosaurs do not exist, and the time when they existed does not exist? Presentists have various responses. Perhaps statements about the past are true because present reality contains traces of the past fossils' memories records. The past supervenes on the present. But this seems unsatisfying. Fossils and memories represent the past. They do not constitute it. And what makes a memory accurate if there is no past reality for it to correspond to? More fundamentally, presentism conflicts with relativity even more severely than the growing block. Relativity tells us that simultaneity is relative. There is no absolute present moment shared by all observers. If only the present exists and different observers have different presents, then different observers inhabit different realities. Events that exist for one observer do not exist for another observer. This is not just counterintuitive. It is arguably incoherent. How can observers with different present moments interact with each other? How can they occupy the same universe? Presentism seems to require rejecting relativity, one of the best confirmed theories in all of physics. Some philosophers bite this bullet. Perhaps relativity is wrong or incomplete. Perhaps there is a preferred reference frame that defines the universal present even if we cannot detect it. But this requires extraordinary evidence, and no such evidence has been found despite a century of precision tests. Presentism, like the growing block, preserves aspects of our intuitive experience of time. It makes the present special and denies the reality of past and future. But the cost is rejecting relativity and creating deep puzzles about truth reference and the nature of temporal statements. Now consider a very different alternative: the possibility that time itself is not fundamental but emergent. In classical physics and relativity, time is a basic ingredient of reality. Space-time is the arena where events occur. Time is one dimension of this arena woven together with space into a four-dimensional continuum. But quantum gravity suggests that this picture might break down at the smallest scales. At distances approaching the Planck length, roughly 10 to the power of negative 35 meters, space and time might lose their smooth, continuous character. Space-time might fragment into a discrete quantum structure, a foam of fluctuating geometry, where the familiar notions of distance and duration do not apply. This is speculative. We do not have a complete theory of quantum gravity. String theory, loop quantum gravity, and other approaches offer different pictures of what happens at Planck scales. But most of these approaches suggest that time as we know it is not fundamental. In loop quantum gravity, space is quantized. It comes in discrete chunks, quantum bits of volume connected by quantum bits of area. Time emerges from the evolution of these quantum states, but at the fundamental level there might be no time at all, only a network of quantum relationships that we interpret as temporal evolution when viewed from a coarse-grained perspective. In some approaches to quantum cosmology, the fundamental description of the universe is timeless. The wave function of the universe describes all possible configurations simultaneously with no reference to time. Time emerges when we make observations, when we adopt a particular perspective on the wave function. If time is emergent rather than fundamental, then asking whether it flows becomes like asking whether the average temperature of a room flows. Temperature is an emergent property of molecular motion. At the fundamental level, there are just molecules moving. Temperature is a coarse-grained description that applies when you ignore molecular details. Similarly, time might be a coarse-grained description that applies when you ignore quantum gravitational details. At the fundamental level, there is just a quantum structure and network of relationships. Time emerges when you adopt a perspective, when you trace out degrees of freedom and focus on particular observables. This is deeply strange, but it might explain some of the puzzles about time. If time is not fundamental, then the flow of time need not be fundamental either. The flow might emerge from the way conscious observers interact with the underlying quantum structure. The arrow of time might emerge from the way we coarse-grain and trace out information. But emergent time theories are highly speculative. They depend on quantum gravity, which remains incomplete. They raise new questions even as they answer old ones. If time emerges, what determines the rate at which it emerges? What picks out the particular coarse graining that gives rise to our experience of time rather than some other coarse graining? These questions remain open, but the possibility that time itself might not be fundamental reminds us that our understanding is incomplete. The block universe, the growing block, Presentism, all these theories assume that time is a basic ingredient of reality. But that assumption might be wrong. Another alternative comes from ancient philosophy revived in modern physics, the possibility that time is cyclic rather than linear. Friedrich Nietzsche proposed the idea of eternal return. The universe repeats itself, endlessly cycling through the same states over and over. Every moment you experience has occurred infinite times before and will occur infinite times again. This is not mere recurrence of similar patterns, but exact repetition. The same atoms in the same configurations playing out the same events in the same sequence. In Nietzsche's hands, this was a philosophical thought experiment meant to provoke reflection on how we should live. If every moment recurs eternally, how does that change what you value? Should you live in a way that you would be willing to repeat the same life infinite times? But modern physics has given new life to cyclical time. Roger Penrose has proposed a cosmological model called conformal cyclic cosmology, in which the universe goes through infinite cycles of expansion. Each cycle begins with a Big Bang and ends in a state of maximum expansion and minimum energy. But this end state becomes the initial state of the next cycle through a conformal transformation that erases information about scale. In this model, time is not strictly circular. Each cycle is distinct, but the overall structure is cyclical, with infinite iterations stretching into the past and future. The arrow of time operates within each cycle, but the cycles themselves might not have an overall direction. Cyclical time models face their own problems. The second law of thermodynamics says entropy increases. If time is cyclical, does entropy reset at the beginning of each cycle? If so, how? If not, entropy would accumulate across cycles, eventually reaching maximum, and cycles would stop. The universe would get stuck in an equilibrium state that cannot cycle. Penrose's model attempts to address this through the conformal transformation between cycles, but the details remain controversial. Most physicists are skeptical that cyclical cosmologies can avoid the entropy problem. Yet the appeal of cyclical time persists. It avoids the question of what came before the Big Bang by proposing that there was a previous cycle. It avoids the question of what happens in the infinite future by proposing that the universe renews itself. And it resonates with human intuitions about cycles in nature, day and night, seasons, birth and death. Whether any version of cyclical time is correct remains unknown. Current observations favor a universe that expands forever rather than collapsing and rebounding. But observations cover only a tiny fraction of cosmic history. Surprises remain possible. These alternative models, growing block, presentism, emergent time, cyclical time, reveal that the nature of time is still contested. The block universe has strong support from relativity and provides a coherent framework for understanding entropy and consciousness. But it is not the final word. What all these models share is an attempt to make sense of the tension between physics and experience. Physics tells us that time is not what it seems. It is not a flowing river carrying us from past to future. It is a dimension like space, or an emergent property of quantum states, or a growing structure crystallizing from non-being into being. But experience tells us that time flows. The present feels special. The past feels gone. The future feels undetermined. These intuitions are so strong that abandoning them entirely feels like abandoning something essential about what it means to be conscious. Perhaps the truth is that both physics and experience are correct in their domains. Physics describes the objective structure of space-time. Experience describes the subjective process of consciousness navigating that structure. The two perspectives are not contradictory, but complementary. The block universe is the view from outside the timeless mathematical structure revealed by relativity. The flowing present is the view from inside the sequential experience of an entropy-bound consciousness moving along a world line. Neither perspective is more real than the other. They are both aspects of the full picture. This does not resolve all mysteries about time. It does not explain why consciousness exists or how physical processes give rise to subjective experience. But it suggests a way of holding the tension between physics and experience without choosing sides. You live in a block universe where all moments exist simultaneously. But you experience those moments sequentially one after another because your consciousness is an entropy-increasing process that can only access information in the direction of increasing disorder. Both facts are true. Both are essential to understanding time. The alternatives remind us that other interpretations exist, other ways of making sense of temporal reality. Some preserve more of our intuitive picture. Some abandon it more completely. None is definitively proven. None is definitively refuted. Time remains mysterious. And perhaps it must remain mysterious because we are embedded within it. We cannot step outside time to view it objectively. We cannot experience timelessness to compare it with temporal flow. We are temporal beings trying to understand temporality from within, like characters in a novel, trying to understand the nature of narrative. The best we can do is construct models, test predictions, gather evidence, and refine our theories. The block universe currently offers the most coherent account. But coherence is not certainty. Other models might yet prove correct. Or the truth might be something we have not imagined, yet something that will only become clear when we finally understand quantum gravity and the deep relationship between time, entropy, and consciousness. For now, we live with uncertainty. We accept that time is strange, that our experience does not match. The physics that the present moment is not what it seems. We live our lives as if time flows because we cannot help doing so. But we know in some corner of our minds that the flow might be an illusion, that the future might already exist, that we might be embedded in a timeless structure experiencing it sequentially for reasons we do not fully understand. This is where we stand, on the boundary between knowledge and mystery, between physics and experience, between the timeless block universe and the flowing present moment of consciousness. And from this boundary, we can see both backward into the physics we have discovered and forward into the mysteries that remain. We have journeyed deep into the physics and philosophy of time. We have seen that relativity implies a block universe where all moments exist simultaneously. We have seen that entropy creates the arrow of time that gives experience its direction. We have seen that the present moment is a construction, a useful fiction created by your brain from slightly delayed sensory data. We have explored alternative models and found each wanting in different ways. Now we must confront the hardest question: what does all this mean for how we live? If time does not flow, if the future already exists, if every moment is eternal and unchanging in the four-dimensional structure of space-time, then how should we think about our lives? About death, about choices and regrets and hopes, about the meaning of existence in a universe where nothing really changes, where everything that will ever happen has already happened in some atemporal sense. These are not merely academic questions. They cut to the heart of what it means to be human. Start with death, the ultimate horizon of human existence. In a universe where time flows, death is an ending. The moment you die, you cease to exist. You were, but now you are not. The future continues, but you are not part of it. Death is negation, absence, the permanent loss of presence. But in the block universe, death looks different. When you die, your world line ends. It reaches its boundary in the time dimension. But reaching a boundary is not the same as ceasing to exist. Every moment of your life continues to exist in the four-dimensional structure. The child you were still plays in that backyard on that summer day. The teenager you were still experiences that first kiss, that moment of wonder or terror or joy. The adult you are right now still reads these words, still thinks these thoughts. These moments do not disappear when your world line ends. They remain carved into space-time forever. You are not a temporary pattern that flickers into existence and then vanishes. You are a permanent structure, a thread winding through the four-dimensional landscape of reality, connecting your birth to your death, through billions of moments that all exist simultaneously and eternally. This offers a kind of consolation. Every moment of joy, every experience of beauty or love or connection exists forever. It never fades. It never becomes merely past. It is always happening, always real, always there in the unchanging structure of space-time. But this consolation is cold. The you of now cannot return to those moments. They exist, yes, but they are inaccessible except through memory. And memory is not the same as presence. Knowing that past moments still exist in some atemporal sense does not bring them back. It does not allow you to experience them again. It does not restore what feels lost. And what about future moments? If they already exist, if your death is already there in space-time, waiting to be experienced, then every moment leading up to that death is also already there. Your future is not open. It is fixed. You will experience what you will experience, make the choices you will make, feel what you will feel, all according to a pattern that already exists in the block universe. Does this make life meaningless? If everything is already determined, if the story is already written, why do anything? Why make plans, pursue goals, care about consequences? The answer is that making plans and pursuing goals and caring about consequences is what creates the pattern of your world line. You are not a passive observer watching a predetermined story unfold. You are an active participant whose choices and actions shape the structure, even though that structure already exists. This is not a contradiction. It is the nature of a self-consistent universe. Your choices are real. They have real consequences. The fact that those choices and consequences already exist in the four-dimensional structure does not make them less real or less yours. Think of it this way: a film already exists as a complete entity. Every frame is already there on the reel or the hard drive. But when you watch the film, you still experience suspense, surprise, emotional engagement. The characters still seem to make choices that matter. The story still unfolds in a meaningful way, even though it is already complete. You are both the film and the viewer. You are experiencing a story that already exists, but you are experiencing it from inside, making the choices that the story describes you making, feeling the emotions that the story describes you feeling. The story is already written, but you do not know what comes next. You must live it to discover it. This is the strange nature of existence in the block universe. Determinism and agency coexist. The future is fixed but unknown. Your choices are real but inevitable. You are both author and character, creating a story that already exists. Some find this liberating. The pressure to make the right choice diminishes when you realize you will make whichever choice you will make. Regret becomes pointless because you could not have chosen differently. You made the choice you made, and that choice is now an eternal part of your world line. Others find it oppressive. The feeling of being trapped in a predetermined pattern, unable to change your future because it already exists, creates a sense of futility. Why struggle against what already is? Why hope for a different outcome when the outcome is already fixed? Perhaps both reactions are too extreme. The block universe does not change what you experience. You still make choices. You still face uncertainty. You still feel the weight of decisions and the sting of regrets. Knowing that these experiences are part of an eternal structure does not make them less real or less significant. Your life is a story carved into space-time. That story has meaning even though it is already complete. The meaning is in the living, in the experiencing, in the choices you make, in the connections you form, and the moments you create. The fact that those moments exist eternally makes them more significant, not less. Now consider grief and loss. Someone you love dies. Their world line ends. You will not experience new moments with them. Their future and your future no longer intersect. This is real loss, real absence, real pain. But in the block universe, every moment you shared with them still exists. The conversation you had last week is still happening in space-time. The laughter, the tears, the ordinary moments of connection all remain as real as they ever were. They have not become merely memories. They are still there, carved into the eternal structure. This does not eliminate grief. Loss is real, even when what is lost still exists in some atemporal sense. You cannot access those moments anymore except through memory. The future you might have shared does not exist in your world line. The person you loved is not gone from the universe, but they are gone from your experience, and experience is what matters to consciousness. Yet there is something comforting in knowing that those moments persist. The love was real. The connection was real, and they remain real in the eternal structure of space-time. Nothing can erase them. They are woven into the fabric of reality itself. This perspective changes how we might think about our ancestors, our descendants, our place in the larger story of humanity. If all moments exist simultaneously, then the people who came before us are not gone. They are still living their lives, making their choices, experiencing their joys and sorrows in their own now. And the people who will come after us are already living their lives too in a future that exists just as solidly as our present. We are all contemporaries in the block universe, separated by location in the time dimension, but equally real, equally present in the eternal structure. Your great-great-grandparents are alive right now in 1850, experiencing that year as their present just as vividly as you experience this year as your present. Your great-great-grandchildren are alive right now in 2180 or whenever they exist, experiencing their time just as you experience yours. This creates a strange kinship across time. You are not separated from your ancestors by the abyss of non-existence. They exist. They are there in space-time. The moments of their lives are as real as the moments of yours. The distance between you is a distance in the time dimension, but distance does not imply non-existence. Chicago does not stop existing just because you are in New York. 1850 does not stop existing just because you are in 2025. And if this is true, then perhaps we have obligations across time in the same way we have obligations across space. We build for the future not just because future people will exist, but because they already exist. We preserve the past not just to honor memory, but because the past is real, its moments still happening, its people still alive in their own now. This is not a common way of thinking about time, but it follows naturally from the block universe. All moments are equally real. All people at all times are equally present in the eternal structure. The boundaries we draw between past, present, and future are artifacts of perspective, not features of objective reality. Now consider the question of meaning. In a universe where time flows, meaning often comes from progress, from moving toward goals, from the possibility of growth and change. You can become better. The world can improve. The future is open, full of potential. But in the block universe, everything that will happen has already happened. There is no progress in the sense of moving from worse to better because both worse and better already exist. You do not become better. Different moments of your world line represent different states, but those states already exist. The entire structure is already complete. Does this drain meaning from existence? Perhaps not. Meaning might not require progress. A completed work of art has meaning even though it does not change or improve. A mathematical theorem has meaning even though its truth is timeless. The block universe is like a completed work of vast four-dimensional sculpture containing all events that ever occur. Meaning is in the pattern, the structure, the relationships between parts. Your life has meaning as part of this pattern. Every choice you make, every connection you form, every moment you experience contributes to the structure of your world line. That structure exists eternally. It is your contribution to the cosmic pattern, your thread in the vast tapestry of space-time. Some philosophers embrace this fully. They argue that meaning in a block universe is purer, more authentic than meaning in a flowing time universe. The moments of your life do not fade into nothingness. They are preserved eternally. Every joy is eternal joy. Every love is eternal love. Every moment of beauty is eternal beauty. Others reject this view. They argue that meaning requires change, possibility, the ability to make things different from what they would otherwise be. A fixed pattern, however intricate, however beautiful, lacks the dynamism that makes existence meaningful. Perhaps the truth is somewhere between. The block universe preserves moments eternally, which gives them a kind of permanence and significance. But it also fixes them, which eliminates the possibility of change or growth across time. Both aspects matter. Both shape what existence means in such a universe. For now, you exist in a particular moment of your world line. This moment feels uniquely real because you are experiencing it. Tomorrow will feel equally real when you experience it. Yesterday felt equally real when you experienced it. Each moment is now from its own perspective, even though all moments exist simultaneously in the objective structure. How should you live in such a universe? The answer might be exactly as you would anyway. You still make choices. You still face uncertainty. You still feel emotions, form connections, pursue goals. The block universe does not change any of this. It simply reframes it. Your choices are real, even though they are determined. Your experiences matter, even though they are eternal. Your life has meaning, even though its pattern is already complete. These are not contradictions. They are different perspectives on the same reality. Nietzsche proposed a thought experiment, the eternal return. What if you had to live your life again exactly as you lived it infinite times? Every moment, every choice, every joy and suffering repeated eternally without variation. How would this change how you live? Nietzsche intended this as a test of life affirmation. Could you embrace your life so completely that you would be willing to repeat it eternally? Could you say yes to existence even if nothing ever changes, even if you can never escape the pattern of your own life? The block universe is similar but different. Your life is not repeated. It exists once eternally in the four-dimensional structure. But every moment of it is permanent, carved into space-time forever. The question is not whether you would be willing to repeat it, but whether you can embrace its eternal existence. Can you say yes to every moment of your life, knowing that it will exist forever, unchanging, as part of the cosmic pattern? Can you embrace the joy and the suffering, the triumph and the failure, the love and the loss, knowing that all of it is permanent, all of it is real, all of it is eternally woven into the fabric of space-time? This is perhaps the deepest existential question raised by the block universe. Not whether determinism eliminates free will or whether the present moment is illusory, but whether you can affirm your existence in a universe where nothing flows and nothing changes, but everything simply is eternally. Some find this terrifying. The weight of eternal existence, the inability to escape your choices and their consequences, the permanence of every mistake and regret feels crushing. Others find it beautiful. The eternal preservation of every moment of joy and love and connection, the permanence of what would otherwise be fleeting, the solidity of existence in an eternal structure feels redemptive. Perhaps both reactions are appropriate. The block universe is both terrifying and beautiful, oppressive and liberating, fixed and free. It is the strange nature of a reality that does not match our intuitions, but might be the truth nonetheless. And now, having explored these depths, we arrive at a final recognition. Time might not be moving forward. The present moment might not be special. Your entire life might exist right now as an unchanging pattern in four-dimensional space-time. But you will continue to experience time as flowing. You will continue to feel the present moment as uniquely real. You will continue to live as if the future is open and the past is gone. This is not a failure to understand the physics. It is the nature of consciousness embedded in a block universe. You cannot help but experience time sequentially. Your brain is built to process information in the direction of increasing entropy. The flow of time is wired into the structure of your consciousness so deeply that knowing it is an illusion does not make it disappear. You live in two realities simultaneously. The objective reality of the timeless block universe, where all moments exist equally, where nothing moves and nothing changes. And the subjective reality of flowing time, where moments unfold sequentially, where the present feels uniquely real, where the future approaches and the past recedes. Both realities are true. Both are essential to understanding your existence. You are a timeless pattern in the eternal structure of space-time. And you are a conscious being experiencing that pattern moment by moment, feeling the flow of time, even though time does not truly flow. This is the paradox you must live with. The physics and the experience do not match. The objective structure and the subjective process tell different stories. But both stories are true in their domains. And you, existing at the intersection of physics and consciousness, must somehow hold both truths simultaneously. Perhaps this is the deepest lesson about time. It is not one thing, but many things. A dimension of space-time, an arrow defined by entropy, a flow experienced by consciousness, a structure revealed by physics, an illusion created by the brain. All of these are aspects of time. None is complete by itself, and the full picture emerges only when we hold them all together. Time remains a mystery. Even after understanding relativity, entropy, neuroscience, and philosophy, something essential about time eludes us. We can describe its structure. We can explain the arrow. We can account for the illusion of flow. But we cannot fully bridge the gap between the timeless mathematics of physics and the flowing experience of consciousness. And perhaps that is appropriate. We are part of time. We are embedded within it. We cannot step outside to view it objectively. We are like characters in a novel trying to understand narrative structure from within the story. Some understanding is possible. Complete understanding might be forever beyond reach. But incomplete understanding is still understanding. We know more about time than humans have ever known. We know that it does not flow the way it seems to. We know that the present is not privileged. We know that past, present, and future all exist in the eternal structure of space-time. We know that entropy creates the arrow we experience. We know that consciousness constructs the sensation of now from slightly delayed sensory data. These insights change nothing about daily life. You will still wake up tomorrow feeling that time has passed. You will still make plans for the future and remember the past. You will still experience moments as flowing from present into past, while new moments arrive from the future. But the insights change everything about what those experiences mean. They are not direct perceptions of temporal flow. They are constructions, useful fictions, ways your brain organizes information. The underlying reality is different, a timeless four-dimensional structure where every moment of your existence is eternally present, where you are not moving through time, but existing as a pattern that simply is. And with that understanding, perhaps we can find a different relationship to time. Less hurried because there is nowhere we are going that is not already there. Less regretful because the moments we treasure still exist eternally, even though we cannot return to them. Less anxious about the future because it already exists and we will experience it when our world line reaches it. This does not mean passivity or fatalism. Your choices shape your world line, even though your world line already exists. What you do matters, even though it is determined. The pattern of your life is created by you through your choices and actions, even though that pattern exists eternally. The block universe is not a prison. It is a structure, and you are not trapped within that structure. You are part of it, a thread in the vast tapestry, contributing your pattern to the whole. So live as if time flows, because that is how consciousness experiences existence. Make choices as if the future is open, because you do not know what your world line contains until you experience it. Form connections and pursue meaning as if your actions matter, because they do, because they shape the eternal pattern of your existence in the cosmic structure. And when moments of clarity come, when you remember that time does not truly flow, that the present is not truly special, that your entire life exists simultaneously in the unchanging, four-dimensional landscape of reality, let that knowledge deepen your appreciation rather than diminish it. Every moment is eternal. Every experience is permanent. Every connection is carved into the fabric of space-time forever. Nothing is lost because nothing passes away. Everything remains always in the timeless structure. This is not the universe we thought we lived in. It is stranger, more mysterious, more beautiful, and more terrible than the flowing river of time we experience daily. But it might be the universe we actually inhabit. A block universe where time does not move, where every moment exists eternally, where past and future are as real as present, where you are not traveling through time, but existing as a timeless pattern in a four-dimensional landscape. And now, as these thoughts settle into your mind, as the strangeness of the block universe mingles with your everyday experience of flowing time, perhaps it is time to rest. To let these ideas percolate in the background of consciousness, drift into sleep, that curious state where the sense of time dissolves and the distinction between past and future fades. In sleep, you approximate the timeless state of the block universe. No planning for tomorrow. No remembering yesterday. just existence immediate and present without the burden of temporal flow. And when you wake, you will return to the flow. Time will seem to move again. Moments will unfold sequentially. The present will feel special. The illusion will reassert itself as it always does, as it must, because you are a conscious being whose experience is bound to the arrow of entropy. But perhaps you will remember in some quiet corner of awareness that the flow is not the whole story. That beneath the surface of temporal experience lies a deeper reality where nothing moves and nothing changes, but everything simply is eternally in the vast four-dimensional structure of space-time. Time might not be moving forward, but you are moving through your experience of it, discovering the eternal pattern of your world line moment by moment, creating through your choices and actions what already exists, living the paradox of determined freedom and eternal presence. This is the mystery of time. This is the truth that physics reveals and consciousness denies. This is the strange universe we inhabit, where time both flows and does not flow, where the present is both special and illusory, where every moment exists forever and yet cannot be revisited. And with that mystery held gently in mind, let the thoughts drift, let the questions rest, let consciousness settle into the quiet space where time loosens its grip and the eternal present of the block universe touches the flowing present of experience. The journey through time's deepest mysteries is complete. But the mystery itself remains, as it always will, a puzzle woven into the very fabric of existence, waiting in every moment we experience, every question we ask, every attempt we make to understand the strange and beautiful reality in which we find ourselves embedded.